All right, welcome in everybody. It is Friday. It's time for another full court press. Rob Vino, of course, hotel lobby edition. This is nothing new at this point. I am on my way to Athens, Ohio, to meet Brian Power and I think like 15 of his friends. I didn't know he had that many friends, Rob, but apparently he's got a crew, and I guess the group just continues to get bigger because they had this plan for a while to go to this particular game, and I don't think they knew that Miami of Ohio was, of course, going to be unbeaten. So the group just continues to grow, and thankfully they've moved the tip back to 9 p.m. Gives us all a little bit more time to sort of get in there, and it should be a good time. And that's going to be our feature game today. That is where the that'll the eyes of the basketball world will be on that game. But first, got to recap the night before. I went 1-2 last night. A little bit. I don't know if it would have been better had I added. There was I kind of looked through everything I sort of passed on, kind of washed out. So 1-2 for me. SEMO ends up getting there on a buzzer beater. That was actually I was a second half comeback away from going 0-3, but that did get there. Manhattan no showed the second half, unfortunately, and Navy was very disappointing to me. They nearly played their way into a loss, Rob, but they get it done. They advance, but yeah, a couple of down days. We lose the parlay by a bucket. Of course, SEMO was in the parlay. Bayou's leg of the parlay gets there, so I hope he's got another one queued up. But yeah, disappointing last couple days. I've had a really good 2+ month run at this point, so hopefully we can turn it around today. How was your night?
Very, very slight loss, Adam. 2-2 on the night in college hoop. The slight loss comes because the one play that was a hair larger than the other three was the play that we left here in the parlay. I need 75.5. I think we get to 73 against FIU. Kind of disappointed in Middle Tennessee's offense there, but it is what it is. Got a couple of winners last night with the Sacred Heart game total over the number. Sacred Heart and Iona put together about a 111-point second half in that game. Absolutely crazy. Everything they threw up went in, worked out good for me. In the end, Northern Iowa, I had that team total over 70.5. They got to 68 against Evansville. Northern Iowa did not get there. And then the other winner I'm trying to recall, Adam, I can't off the top of my head. These days blend themselves together. But it was a 2-2. I'm just trying to. Oh, yeah, South Florida team total over. Never in doubt against Memphis, 96-89 finals. So there you have it. Couple of winners with the Sacred Heart game, full game over. The South Florida team total over. Pair of losers with the MTSU team total over that did not get there in Northern Iowa. Missed both of those by a bucket. So we'll get back to it tonight. As I mentioned all the time, since December 1, up 51 units in college hoops. So It's been a 4-month run. Haven't had a losing month since the beginning of the year, November. So it's been really, really good.
Yeah, I'm still I'm still trying to reverse a tough start, but 60 units in January and February for me. Started off March really good, and then the last 2 days have given some back. So, but again, this is probably from a volume standpoint for me. March is typically, especially these next 2 weeks, going to be very, very high volume, just because I truly believe the edge is as good as it's going to get in this smaller conference tournament. So like this first week, and then that first weekend of March Madness. So, yeah, we've got a ton of games today. We got to get right into it. And let's talk the game I'm headed to tonight. That's Miami of Ohio. And Rob, I'm going to be there, of course. It would be awesome to, either result wouldn't really matter, because in one hand, getting to be there for Ohio winning this game would be pretty cool, right? Because, yeah, I'm sure if Brian Power wasn't tuned up enough by getting to happy hour at 5 o'clock, certainly an Ohio win would send him into outer space, basically. But if it doesn't happen, then you get to see Miami of Ohio complete the feat of running the table through the regular season. as I look at the matchup and I recall us I recall us talking about this game last time these two teams played, and my handicap is similar. Like for Miami of Ohio to win, or I'm sorry, for Ohio to win this game, I feel like Miami of Ohio has to just have an off shooting night. They have to shoot it poorly. And I think if they even play an average game, they're not losing the game. And then you look at the number, and even if I take recency bias out of it completely here, Rob, I'm still the most I'm getting to is like 5.5, 6. So talk to me about this game. You've been really good with Miami of Ohio totals. I just don't know that I'm getting enough value to play Ohio, but my gut says don't do it with Miami of Ohio because they've come so close to slipping up on the road in a couple of these scenarios that maybe that happens here. So intriguing game. Talk to me about this one.
Yeah, I mean, and if we're waiting for Miami of Ohio to have a bad shooting night, it just hasn't happened in conference play. They're so infrequent. It's, the worst shooting game they had was way back on January 3rd against Akron, who is, I think in both of our opinions, Adam, Akron and Miami on a neutral, we lean Akron in that game. Obviously, it's debatable who's better, Miami of Ohio or Akron, but Akron did hold them to 37% shooting. Even in that instance, Miami of Ohio still found a way to win 76-73. So you're asking, if you're betting Ohio, you're asking for Miami on the road to be off shooting. We know that even when they are off shooting, I can give you another example. A couple of weeks ago, only 40% against Eastern Michigan, win the game by 10. So even when they don't shoot it well, which again is so infrequent, they found a way to win. It's hard to bet against this team. Laying points in this particular instance, when you add in the crowd factor tonight for Ohio U, the national television spotlight. I will say this, Miami of Ohio has been under the Friday night spotlight more than once now, and they haven't melted yet. They continue to win. So it's very, very difficult to bet against them in almost any situation for me. So I immediately looked at total. First time around, these two played to a game final score of 164, 90-74 Miami O. Really not close. Again, Miami shot the ball terrific. 52.5 from 2, 50% from 3. All the weaponry was there. Ohio even shot it pretty well from inside the arc, Adam, and still couldn't get the job done, couldn't come within 16 points. Of course, that was at Miami, and this is in Ohio. I don't know. Aside from the situationals, which are what they are, can Miami withstand the pressure? Ohio U in their final home game, heated rivalry, all of that situational stuff, I guess you can build somewhat of a case for Ohio. When it comes down to fundamentals and who's the better team over the course of 40 minutes, there may be stretches and spurts, et cetera, for either side here. But when it comes to time to rise up and who's better, Miami's just got better shooters, way more options. And I think I want to make this point, which is a shade off topic, but not really. I don't know if you saw the rant that Sundance Wicks went on for the head coach of Wyoming. He went on this not insane, I won't call it insane because he made a lot of sense, but he went on this rant about all of the anti-Miami of Ohio sentiment going around, don't deserve to be an attorney, et cetera, et cetera. And his main point in that whole thing was that people don't realize how difficult it is to schedule for these mid-majors. Nobody wants to play them. And when they find a team like Miami of Ohio that has, in Sundance Wicks's terms, retention, meaning they kept all their players from the year before, then God, no, we don't want to play you. You kept all your players. When they schedule these mid-majors, if in fact they do schedule them at all, they're counting on NIL dispersals to other teams. You're coaching a bunch of new kids, which is the case in a lot of mid-major situations, and they think they can come in and win. But they don't want to get a loss. So credit to Miami of Ohio was his point. I, too, think that this team is in the tournament no matter what happens here tonight. I don't think they're going to lose, Adam. If I had to play here, I'd be playing the total up and over 159.5. It's already been bet up a couple of points. Don't let it go too far. Like I said earlier, the game did hit 164 first time around.
Yeah, if I was playing here, I'd be laying it with Miami of Ohio. Again, I think even if you take all the recency out, which obviously when I say recency, I mean you're clearly gonna the books are clearly gonna tax you a little bit on backing a 30-0 team. Even if you take all that out, I'm still coming up with like Miami of Ohio like -6, right? And that would be giving Ohio like the full benefit of the doubt. So in reality, my number is actually probably higher than that. And here's the concern is that again, I just think the only way Miami of Ohio loses this game is if the moment is just too big and they have an uncharacteristic sort of melt, in my opinion. But Rob, you made a really good point. They're accustomed to this now. How many Fridays in a row have they played the big game on a Friday night? And if you look at their whole MAC schedule, which again, there is some merit to running the table in this league. It's still a decent league. That means you still had to beat Akron. You still had to beat Kent State, Toledo, Bowling Green. UMass is not great this year, but they're not a team. They beat Florida State, the non-conference. Those weren't easy games. Point is, like, they pretty much have gotten it done every step of the way. If you look at the conference slate on the road, I believe the only two where they didn't win by this margin was Buffalo, where they missed a couple foul shots and Buffalo crept back in, hit a couple shots, and suddenly it was a 2-point game. And then last week at Western Michigan, which was probably Miami of Ohio, one of their worst halves of conference play. That first half against Western Michigan, where they only scored 26 points. So my thing is this: if you're backing Ohio, I feel like you're waiting for that to happen. And if it doesn't, you're probably going to find yourself down 10 to 15, and then you're going to be hoping you can somehow steal it at the end and cut it to 4 or 5 and get backdoor. I just think that probably 7 times out of 10, Miami of Ohio is winning this game by 6 points or more. So do what you will with that. Not doubt it makes my card, but I think they get it done. I think they complete the undefeated season in Athens tonight.
Do you enter that gym with Red Hawks gear tonight, Adam?
No, as you can see, I don't have. I put a green sweatshirt on. This is a Charlotte sweatshirt. I'm sure I'll come across some Ohio gear at some point, but no, I'm not wearing red. I may, I don't always bet. Like, I don't even know if I'll have action. Like a lot of times, see, I go with the games I go to. Like I'm trying to do content, take video and stuff like that, and then I usually do that in the first half, and then by the second half, I lock in and watch the game. So who knows? Maybe I'll bet the second half. We'll see. But yeah, not going to be a client play for me. Should be great though. Going to be a really good one. I think it'll probably be Ohio's. Yeah, it was going to be Ohio's best crowd in a minute, probably. I know a lot of the uppers are being sold. So Steve Duke, real quick before we move on to the next game. No, all of the games are not tournament games. This is the final round of play for the MAC regular season. So no, they're not all tournament games. And I will do my best job to clarify if we're talking about a tournament game or not. And so I'm going to move on to Garth here. And this would be a scenario where we're not talking about a tournament game. So he says, looking at Penn -2.5. So what I find very interesting about if you're trying to bet the Ivies today, Rob, is Ivy Madness is already locked in. So in theory, the Ivy League games tonight are, I believe, meaningless from a who gets into the conference tournament or not. However, they still could alter seeding because, of course, I believe most of these teams still play 2 more games. So tonight you're looking at so you're looking at 4. You're looking at a whole slate of Ivy. The next, I believe. Oh, I'm sorry. No, this is going to be the finale. So it looks like we're seeing the Ivy finale tonight. Everyone is going to play one more game in the Ivy. I did the math wrong. They all play 14 league games. So Yale, it looks like already has at least the 1 seed. I do think there's a scenario where they could finish tied with Harvard at the top for a co-championship thing. But here's a scenario. So I want to go to Garth's game. He likes Penn, looking at Penn -2.5. He says the only thing that scares him is this is the first time Penn has been favored on the road. Yeah, so now Penn is favored on the road, and they're also already into Ivy Madness. That being said, Brown, win or lose here, Rob, is going to finish last in the Ivy this year. If you watched full court press early in the year, I told you that might happen. I said Brown, I thought was the worst team in this league. They, of course, lost Keno Lilly. They don't score. They've been a disaster all year. And so, Penn, I think, is phenomenal. I think they're really good. I talked about this too. Fran McCaffrey, I figured that he'd be right in the mix in his first year in this league. And of course, he is. He has this team in Ivy Madness. So is it as simple as just laying the small number with Penn here on the road? Or do you think Brown shows up for their senior night? A lot of these teams will have some seniors. I can't see any reason to bet Brown. I've said they're bad all year. They're bad. So it's Penn or pass for me. Side or total, Rob, what do you got?
Well, I think you'd have to lean Penn. I believe they're locked into the 3. I don't believe they can climb to the 2 over Harvard. They did split their season series. Penn is a game behind. It would require a Harvard loss as well. But they are locked into the 3 because even if they lose this game, Cornell could tie them. But Penn beat Cornell twice this year. So they win that tiebreaker. So Penn, when you said meaningless, it is kind of meaningless unless you're Fran McCaffrey and you want some kind of tune-up game, which I think they probably would like to have a tune-up game. First time around, 81-73 in favor of Penn. Penn has played terrific down the stretch. I mean, Fran did a great job with this team. They're 6-1 straight up in their last 7 games. And the only game they lost, Adam, was a 4-point loss to Yale, which on the road, there's no shame in that, losing by 40 Yale at Yale if you're Penn. So they are probably, you could honestly argue that they're the hottest team in the Ivy right now. I don't think you do anything to disrupt that heading into the tournament. If you're a Fran McCaffrey, you don't kind of take it's a meaningless game approach with this one to maybe force your team out of the rhythm that they're in. So I could agree with Garth here. Like I say, first time it was an 8-point win, but let's remember that back on January 10, when these two teams played, Penn really wasn't in a rhythm at that point in time. I think we had even talked way back then about Fran still trying to figure some things out with this team, rotationally, et cetera, et cetera. Had some talent, and his style to be implemented probably takes a little bit of time for Penn to acclimate to, but they are now. And like I say, the list of wins in the last 7 games, including the most recent win over Harvard, which is huge for Penn, to at least from a mindset of we belong in this Final Four tournament. We can beat these guys. Came close at Yale, beat Harvard. So I would agree. The number just looks small to me. How is Brown only 2.5 worse than Penn at this particular point in time? I get that the power ratings are seasonal. Their overall numbers, they're not really accounting for. They don't sit there and say, let's have our last 7 games power ratings and put them up against it. That's what we do on the other side of the counter. And from that perspective, I think you're getting a better team right now with Penn than what you had back in January. And that team beat Brown by 8.
So a couple things. I was at that Penn Yale game. Yeah, Penn was the better team. They kind of lost it at the end. I felt like Penn pretty much outplayed Yale for the majority of that game. They covered a big number. I want to say they were like a 10-point dog. Actually, that was the game. So Nick Townsend got ruled out. So even they went off 8, they still covered easily. They had a couple of looks in the final minute or two to win. Like I thought Penn was the better of those two teams on that day. They just fell a little bit short. And as you said, that's their only loss since January, right? The only loss they've had since January is on the road to the best team in the league. I think your whole handicap here is motivation, and I think I'm going to further make the case for Penn. Penn has not played since Saturday when they played Harvard. Ivy Madness will not start until next Saturday. So why would Fran McCaffrey rest anyone or risk not playing this game out for 40 minutes? Like, this is your only game action in a 2-week span. So you go Saturday the 28th, they played Harvard at home. And then they'll play Harvard on Saturday the 14th in Ithaca in the semifinal round of Ivy Madness. So you've got one game in between those games. It's this game. Rob, like, you should be going through. This should be full dress rehearsal here. Why would you change anything for this game? And if Penn is going to come out and give an effort, it would be shocking for them to lose. And then if you're talking about them winning, they only need to win by 2.5. And I didn't even really factor that in yet. And my number's still up around 4. So I think Garth's probably onto something. I may have to go give another look to this one. I think that's a good call, Garth. That number feels short to me as well. All right, we can move on. Quick promo. Double the Firepower CBB package. Up until the last couple of days has been rolling right along. And I think, going into the weekend, I'm certainly not deterred from a couple of losing days. I actually, you could argue I had them coming. I think I had 4 straight winning days prior to that and like multiple winning weeks. So we'll battle through it. There's a bunch of spots I really like this weekend. And I know Rob just continues to plug along up near the top of the, everyone at WagerTalk College Hoops. So you got 2 options, the 3-day or the full season. Take us right through the NCAA tournament. And of course, don't forget all those little tournaments, the NIT. Are they going to let us bet the crown this year, Rob, is the question. They pulled the odds last year, if you remember. I was all ready to bet that tournament, and they said basically every sports book pulled the odds. But, we'll be grinding it out with you through March. And I hope you guys join us because it truly is the best time of year. And listen, I didn't spend all these miles on the road in these little gyms to not come out and kill it during conference tournament week. So that is what we plan to do. And Rob, I am going to go right to you. Robert Serpis was at the Long Beach State game last night. I appreciate you tweeting me from the game with clips from the game. I love that. If I can do anything, Rob, inspire people to go out and watch more basketball, feel like I'm doing my job. He got a great game between UC Davis and Long Beach last night. And I'm going to go right to you here because he wants to. So first of all, appreciate the donation. Second, he wants to know Belmont 11.5. Any thoughts? And I know if there's a guy that has thoughts on the Belmont Bruins, Rob, it's you. So talk to me, Drake Belmont. This is the Missouri Valley Conference Tournament, 1 p.m. Eastern this afternoon.
Yeah, day game, Adam. To Robert there, I did bet it at minus 11.5. The trouble is it's 13 now. So as we do the show, this game continues to increase. People on the Belmont side, Drake played last night. Drake did play Belmont extremely tough the first time around. Believe that one was in Drake. But then the second time around, Belmont had their way. They won that one by 13 or 14 points. It's time for Casey Alexander and this team to turn it on. This is going to end up being, in all likelihood, a one-bid team. I hate to say that because I think that Belmont is as good a mid-major as there is outside of, a team like maybe St. Louis or whatnot. But I still think Belmont would be competitive against the VCUs, the Atlantic 10s of the world. They are that good at this point in time. Now, what's bothersome a little bit with Belmont is the fact that the defense has slipped over the past, I'm going to say 7 or 8 games. Prior to maybe the first week in February, through the first week in February, Belmont, you could find them at the top of the defensive efficiency standings inside the Missouri Valley. You don't find that anymore. Started to give up points, which is typical Belmont of the past, but they're just so gifted offensively that they overcome it. The amount of shooters, I know Lundblom gets a lot of accolades, but guys like Jack Smiley and others who shoot threes on this team and the offense that they run is so good. I do think that they're in a prime spot here. Drake had to play last night, have to show up early, basically this morning, right? That's a noontime game in St. Louis. So there's not a lot of rest for Drake here to get back up on the horse. And Drake is just, it's not typical Drake. It's a bad defensive team, and you just don't want to be a bad defensive team against this offense. Belmont rested. I saw no reason not to lay 11.5. I'm not going to discourage people from laying if you can get. I'm just looking here at numbers, Adam, as we speak. And I mean, believe it or not, I see 14s out there now, which is, it's just
Wow.
probably going to continue to go up. At that price, you can't really recommend it. I think, Robert, you got a good number. If you did bet it at 11.5, you got a good number. I think I did as well. We'll take our CLV. I think Belmont can win by up to 15 points. But there's no wiggle room left anymore, right? You don't get those 2 baskets worth of wiggle room anymore. So I do like Belmont. I think they'll do the right thing here. And it's just a tough spot for Drake.
Okay, so a couple things you can do. One, hope for a slow start or hope Drake gets a bucket and then try to in-game it. That's always an option. There's especially at Arch Madness. So I think this is a good this because we don't know if we'll definitely come back to the Missouri Valley. Like, this is a good spot to maybe bring up the very highly publicized Missouri Valley under. They all go under.
Right.
Doesn't matter what the number is. They steam over. They still go under. I don't really want to talk about that because it's like I still think you need to acknowledge it. I don't think it's like something that you can just blindly bet. But let's just put it into the context of this handicap for a second. Okay, so historically in this building, offense has been harder to come by. So what does that mean for this game? One, maybe if you get a 7-5 start, you may actually get that in play minus 11.5. Let's say it's Drake 8-5 out of the gate. Media timeout. You might get your 11.5 with Belmont. The other thing you can do is play Belmont first half for a half unit. If it doesn't come in, come over the top with a full unit on the second half, or just break it up however you want. But you'll end up getting the better number with Belmont. Why do I agree with you, Rob? Why do I also like Belmont? Because let's just assume this is a tough venue to shoot in. Well, Belmont's been getting to the rim as efficient as any team in this league this year. They shoot the ball well. Like, I think Belmont gets billed as this offensive team. We know they can shoot, but they are very efficient rim offense. They're really the most complete offensive team in this league. I don't think, like, if there is some sort of voodoo in this building, which there seems to be every year, I think Belmont would be one of the teams that is less likely to fall victim to it because they can get to the rim and score at an efficient rate. One thing I want to point out about Drake, listen, Southern Illinois was kind of a decent matchup for them. That's a team that struggles to score the basketball, that can't shoot. And of course, they were able to win a game in the 60s. Drake had lost 9 straight games prior to that game. The other thing that you mentioned, Rob, Belmont won both of the regular season meetings. Like, Drake kind of shot the lights out in those games. And in the second one, Belmont still dropped 103 and won by double digits. So I think you're asking for it if you take Drake. I guess I could see, like, there is a point where people are going to say, well, where do I push back? I got to push back at some point. But I don't know. Even at 14 and a half, I don't think I want any part of Drake here. I just think Belmont is too good, and their ability to get efficient baskets in a arena that has been inefficient for offenses over the years. Just, to me, that says Belmont or pass.
And I think, we probably don't go into depth about Belmont enough, Adam, simply because they don't come up often on this show, and we don't extend analysis out enough when it comes to their games. But I do want to point out, as much as I talk about Lundblade and Casey Alexander's love for him, claiming he's the best three-point shooter he's seen in his coaching career, to your point about getting to the rim, Belmont's never had a big man. And when I say never, I'll go back to my time when my son started there in 12, I think, 2011, 2012. Haven't had a big man like Charnowski ever in that time. And Charnowski just doesn't get a lot of credit for what he does defensively and offensively at the rim, even screening guys to get layups uncontested. It's a really good offense that, as you mentioned, gets to the rim. I always come out here and talk about their three-point prowess, but their entire offense and their ability to score inside the arc and get to the free throw line and make free throws is a huge plus too. Drake just doesn't have enough of that this year.
I think I see Bayou in the chat, but I did just text him to see what he wants to throw into the parlay. Jose Perez has a question, and I want to talk about this one because there's talking points here. So he says, Bayou, do you like Winthrop? I suppose Keith can jump in and chime in the chat, but Rob, let's talk about this game. This is a conference tournament game. This is early, so we killed two birds with one stone right there because I know people want some daytime action, conference tournament action. And Jose says, "Do you like Winthrop?" And what I say is, couple things here. So Duncombe is more than likely out for Winthrop here. Everything I'm reading says that it would be shocking to see him play today. Now, of course, Rob, I come on here yesterday, say there's no way that the guy from Lindenwood is going to play with that hamstring injury, and he's out there dragging his leg up and down the court, going for like 20. I couldn't believe it. He played pretty much the whole game. Now, he was clearly compromised, but still the fact that he got out there and played, it is conference tournament time, right? There's no tomorrow. So it's like almost like if you can give it a go, you got to give it, there's no next game, I guess is the point I'm trying to make. That being said, all
Uh-oh. Did we lose him?
surprising.
Yeah, I think he lost. I see you guys. Okay. Adam obviously has lost all ability to connect to us. So let me go ahead and see if he can get back here. I don't know. Guys, I'm looking at the chat now. If you can hear me and if in fact you can tell what's going on, let me know and I will
All
continue.
right. Am I back? I couldn't
Yeah.
tell if that was me or that was you that got bumped, but we are all right. It looked like our stream got knocked down for a second. My internet's working perfectly, so I don't know what that, I'm connected on like multiple things here. Can you hear me okay, Rob?
I can. The
Someone
chat
said all
wanted me to take over for a minute. Take the wheel. I would have,
Yeah,
but
well-
you're back. So here we go.
Yeah, so okay, it must have been me that got bumped. Well, it seems like I'm back. And what I was saying before I got bumped was, when I saw this number this morning, I figured that the Duncombe news was baked in. I figured I had already kind of ruled him out and thought the number was probably good. It looks like Charleston Southern's taking a little bit of money here even since then. So I guess my question is, I mean, this seems like a bad matchup for Winthrop regardless. And now you've got their best player, or one of their best players is going to be out. Man, I kind of wish I took Charleston Southern earlier at 5. I guess is my, answer to Jose. No, I don't like Winthrop. I think they could be vulnerable here, and I'm a little disappointed at myself for not just kind of jumping when I kind of knew Duncombe wasn't going to play. Because I think now that I know it's 3.5, Rob, I think I'd take 5 with Charleston Southern on a neutral. So, sorry for the disjointed breakdown there. If you're watching this on demand, I apologize. But go ahead, Charleston Southern Winthrop. Finish up what you had to say about that one.
Extremely close matchup both times, Adam. Regardless, Duncombe went crazy one game. Didn't really matter. Charleston has won one of these games by 2, lost the other one by 4. So you could tell how competitive it is between these two. Charleston actually, for what it's worth, outshot Winthrop in both of these games from inside the arc and from beyond the arc. The better shooting team twice now in both arenas. So it would be hard, especially as you mentioned, the early number +5. For those who got there early and took that, you're in good shape, I would think here. Down to 3.5 or 4 now. Still, like I say, if you're going to reference the season history here, you would still want to take 4 in a tournament style game on a neutral floor with the team that was the better shooting team twice. Winthrop didn't have answers the second time. Not that it was a huge, significant gap in shooting, but still Charleston Southern was the better shooting team. So reasons to go ahead and play Winthrop, I think, are less than what they are to take points with Charleston Southern. However, all that being said, these games when they're lined in the 3.5 area and the extension that you could get at the end of the game on the foul line would be a little bit scary for me. Winthrop, if they had a 2-point lead with 50 seconds left, could turn that into a 5-point win, and you don't get there because the other side came down and missed a 3 and they made 2 more free throws, et cetera, et cetera. It's that close of a game. I did look at the total here, guys, because the total was very high in both of these. I think it was 158 and 170 in those two games. Here we're sitting at 162 pretty firmly. You take a look at a lot of these conference tournament games today, and you see extreme pushes toward the under, which is commonplace at conference tournament time. Just wake up, find an opener, bet an under. But here that hasn't happened, which kind of suggests that early money doesn't believe this is going to be one of those low-scoring games. It should be high tempo. Again, they've played twice. They played the same way twice. Who's to think it would be a different way this time around? So maybe the number's a little bit too high for me to get involved at 162. But I could see somebody playing that. So again, I think I would lean dog as my preferred play here.
Yeah, and I should be very clear because I was like in the process of like, I guess, getting disconnected or whatever. Like Duncombe is clearly Winthrop's best player. 18.4 points per game, 9 boards. He left the Charleston Southern game. That was when he got hurt. Winthrop lost that game by 2. And even earlier this year, they only won by 4 at home. So, you know, they've failed to cover at least the opener in either of those games. The opener, what this game would have been. And Winthrop really kind of barely got by Presbyterian. 74-70. They were a 7.5-point favorite in the last game. So yeah, that is concerning. But I do feel like I've missed the number at this point. So I'll be a spectator there, but I couldn't really fault anyone for looking toward Charleston Southern. Colsey, to answer your question, I think if you could get like a 4 or a 4.5, it like, because it was 4.5 for a while. So I think I'd want 4. 3.5, I just I hate that scenario where you could take a number and then it lands 4 and then you lose and then you could have won had you bet it sooner. So for me, it would be 4 or better to look at Charleston Southern. That's just me personally, but yeah, interesting game. And again, this is kind of why I haven't bet anything yet, Rob, for today, even though I like plan to bet but there's going to be, especially like back-to-back game type scenarios. If someone's out, I'm going to want to know that. And for me also, it's just, I've had a couple lines move against me the last couple days. So exercising a little more, I'm not going to have the FOMO here. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm just, if I miss one, I miss one. And that's kind of where I'm at with Charleston Southern. If I loved it, I would have bet it this morning. So, you know, just do what you will with that. All right, let's go back to the main board for a minute. Keith Bayou Bets Landry has come in with his parlay leg. He cashed with the over in Colgate Loyola for us yesterday as part of the parlay. We hit 2 of 3. We've got to hit one of these sooner or later. We really need 2 just to get back to like even at this point. So let's go to the Atlantic 10, Rob. Dayton, VCU. Bayou likes Dayton on the money line. I think it's minus 130. I'll let you double check your odds screen and just give me like what a good market price for that is. But he wants to call it Dayton money line. Hey, we've kind of talked about this team last couple times out. They're playing much better. And interesting stuff from Bayou. I didn't really think about this much, but because Phil Martelli just got there. I didn't realize that his name was getting tossed around for Providence, but it makes complete sense because, of course, Phil Martelli Jr., all those good years at Bryant, right down the road. I don't know how much stock I put into that, but I mean, Virginia Commonwealth's last coach was pretty much already at Virginia at this time of the year last year. Like it was like already like a done deal. And it does happen. So, Rob, your thoughts, VCU, Dayton, and do you put any stock into coaches starting to have one eye on something else at this point in the season?
I'm not sure Martelli at his age would have one. I think he's more of a guy who, like a lot of the younger coaches are, that are in it to finish it and then move on. I don't think he would abandon the team as far as not paying attention to game plan, et cetera, et cetera. The stuff that the coach is responsible for. I don't think that the distractions would be enough to deter him from this VCU mission. And, that's the one thing that scared me off of this game. We're going to ride with Bayou, obviously, and we're going to ride with the hot team Dayton here. Money line, Adam, I saw minus 130. But
that's what I've got too. We'll use minus 130 for the parlay.
In our line of work, we do not pay a lot of attention to AP top 25s, coaches top 25s, whatever the top 25 is. And we don't pay a lot of attention to bracketologists until it comes to situational stuff. And in this instance, I just find that almost every single bracket expert that you find, and they all put them together a shade differently, but they all come to the same conclusion that VCU is in an absolute must-win situation here if they want to make March Madness. This is the sense of urgency game for them. Drop this one, you're not getting in. Dayton's going to go by you. Hey, pretty good pun there, right? By you. They're going to go past you where that is concerned. So for VCU, the sense of urgency is there, and they're certainly good enough, Adam. They're certainly good enough personnel-wise to play with Dayton. I don't want to bet, or I don't want to step in front of the freight train that currently is Dayton. I don't want to step in front of VCU and their must-win sense of urgency type of mindset that they have tonight. It's probably why the game is lined as closely, or let's just say this: the game is lined appropriately, in my estimation. You can stand on one side of the fence or the other. We're choosing the Dayton side here, but it's the one reason why, for me, I got a little bit scared of Dayton here in this game, just because VCU, you're probably going to get their best effort of the season here tonight. If you don't, then maybe the coach did check out. Maybe the team wilted under the pressure, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm not in that locker room. I can't make that assessment.
Well, Rob, I'll tell you why I'm a little scared of Dayton here, because the last time these two teams played, I had Dayton. It's a client play and got my teeth kicked in that game. They never had a chance. 99-73, totally dominated. That was a Friday night at the Siegel Center in Richmond, Virginia. But you can make a couple points here based off of that. One, I've been to both. There is few better atmospheres than a Friday night in Dayton when the fan base is engaged, which is almost all the time. And actually, if you follow Dayton Twitter, they were like getting on the students and stuff earlier this year for not like having the student section completely full. The arena is always full. Dayton, that's a great basketball city. Like they're going to support that team regardless, but very rarely do you see like they're getting on, Rob. You had like Dayton Twitter getting on the students. Like, how is the student section not completely full? Like this team is still very good, still has a lot to play for. And since that game, they've rattled off 6 straight. So I'll tell you what, last game of the regular season, Friday night, UD Arena, full marks for home court. I've always said that. Dayton, I always give full marks for home court. That's going to be an awesome atmosphere for them at home. So there's, that, like, part of me wants to just go back and say, okay, you weren't wrong. You were just early, right? Like your handicap wasn't wrong. Dayton just wasn't playing the way you expected them to play yet. Now they've been playing that way for 6 straight games, but also they've been playing that way for 6 straight games, right? And you have to, like, can they run it and finished the regular season on a 7-game win streak. During that stretch, they have benefited. Davidson's not a very good team. George Mason hasn't played well. The win over St. Louis, to me, was just as much St. Louis starting to run out of a little gas. Like you could see that coming from a mile away with St. Louis, how they had played pretty much since the Dayton game, the first one, when they ran them out of the gym. But like they go on the road and get wins over George Washington and Richmond. That's pretty impressive to me. So I guess like I'm with. First of all, I'm not going to play against Bayou here because he's been really good and he won yesterday. I want to love Dayton in this spot because I'm stubborn, Rob, and I loved him in the first meeting, and it was a client play for me then, and it's like, I want to like them in that regard. I just don't know if I could do it off the 6-game win streak, but you know what? We're going to put it in for Bayou. He's in the parlay today. He likes Dayton Flyers on the money line, and that's where we're going to go with that one. Adam, yeah, we have covered some of the early games, and we're going to cover another one of the early games, and then we'll go to Rob to get his parlay leg. But let's go the only Coastal. I literally thought it, Rob. I was like thinking it in my head. I still almost said Colonial. But the Coastal is going to start this afternoon. 1 game, 2 p.m. The only sort of play-in game in this league. Believe it's the 2 worst teams. I think they take everyone. And so this is going to be North Carolina A&T and Northeastern playing in Washington, D.C. at 2 p.m. Eastern today. Garth wants to talk total, so I'm going to let you kick this one off. A&T, Northeastern. He likes the over. What do you say about that?
Probably no reason not to. That's what I'll say about that. They only played once. Coastal is like a lot of other conferences now where you don't get to play everybody in a rematch situation. So this game was played way back on New Year's Eve, December 31st. 159 was the total that they racked up in that game. 85-74 win for Northeastern. One of the few wins that they had this year. But it's the 2 worst defenses in this league. Both play with and A&T plays with a little more pace, but not much more pace. Northeastern, we've talked about this season having some offensive capabilities, but 0 defensive capabilities. I mean, when you start putting these 2 together in a game like this, you could probably see a duplicate of what happened the first time, 85-74. If I just go back here real quick to my notes, both teams shot it really well, 56% inside the arc for both sides. Both teams shot it pretty well from outside. It's A&T that didn't shoot it well from outside the arc, but Northeastern did. They got to the free throw line a little bit, 59 free throws in that game. So everything you would expect from a, lack of a better term, roll the balls out type offensive game. That's what you're going to get here. You'll get the pace, you'll get the opportunity, you'll get the 0 resistance on defense. I don't know why you wouldn't play it over. Let me put it this way. I certainly wouldn't play under. So again, Garth, I would be with you. I took a serious look at this game. Not quite sure why I didn't pull it. There was a huge push down on the total from 158 all the way down to 152. Again, you're playing in an arena where the rims are somewhat strange. So who knows how they come out shooting. I guess that would be your counter to, do you like over? Maybe there's enough time left in a game if you do come out slow shooting to go ahead and get over this number. I just spoke earlier about a game I had last night, Sacred Heart and Iona. It wasn't exactly a first half where they lit it up, but the second half, once they got adjusted, 111 points. So something like that could happen here. Garth, I wouldn't play under, so I will support your over here. Again, it's conference tournament time where these pushes toward under are just commonplace. That's what they do. They wake up, they bet under in all these games where there are going to be some foreign rims.
Yeah, all I have to add here, Northeastern has not won a game since January 15th. It's certainly, but to their, I guess, defense here going into this game, which is against another team that hasn't won many games yet this year, they did win the regular season meeting, as you said, way back on New Year's Eve. Northeastern's been crippled by injuries this year, so I'm going off a hand, but I imagine they had a player or two more than they have right now for that game. But, they really didn't look bad against Monmouth earlier this week. I caught a good amount of that game. They put up 83 points. Obviously, offense has been the main concern for this Northeastern team. They kind of played William and Mary tough. This to me is kind of a true coin flip. But if Northeastern shows up, I really wouldn't be that surprised if they won the game. Again, I think if you want to bet that game, stick with Garth, play the total, or find something else to bet. All right, Rob, do you know what you want to do with the parlay league?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
Of choices. Once again, I say this every day. It comes down to a couple for the most part, but I'm going to do exactly what Garth is doing in his game, and I'm just going to push back against a total move that I think is just too much at this point in time. Valparaiso plays Bradley tonight. Missouri Valley Conference. There'll be the early game in the 2-game nightstand that is the Missouri Valley Conference Arch Madness tonight. This total opened 141.5, probably appropriate. It's been bet all the way down to 133.5. So you have an 8-point move on a total. Against this particular number, 133.5, Bradley this year, 28-4 to the over 133.5. 32 games played, 28 times Bradley games got over 133.5, including the 2 times they played Valpo. Both went over. And they're not way back past history. I mean, they played as recently as November 3rd, and then they played February 3rd and February 18th. So 2 games last month. Bradley's just been that team this year. They can score enough. Valparaiso down the stretch was playing at an over clip where I cashed a couple where they get underpriced. And last night, Valpo plays a grinder against Indiana State, where Valparaiso shot absolutely miserably in that game. Valparaiso, 38% from 2. Valparaiso, 34% from 3. The whole field goal percentage was beneath what they generally put up there. And they got caught in a low-scoring game. But I don't know that – even then, Adam, that game went 125. We're asking for 134 here. It's not that much more than that. And it's not that many more shot makes against the Bradley. Not that Indiana State's a really good defense, because they're not. But Bradley's not a good defense either at this point in time. Far more offensive-minded than Indiana State. So for me, this falls into the category of playing the number, going to fight back against the resistance here, because I think this is just, I've said it twice in this show, it's a general thing that bettors do come conference tournament time. Not that betting unders is wrong in conference tournament time. It plays out a lot that way, but every so often you'll run into an instance like this where one side, the Bradley side, is so strong against 133.5. 28-4 is outrageously good. 7 out of 8 every 8 times you're going to win this bet if you play Bradley full game over. I'm going to play it today. It'll be my parlay leg. Bradley, Valparaiso, or Valparaiso Bradley, I guess, because Valparaiso's on top in the rotation. 853, 854. That game over 133.5. And it's readily available, guys. You can find that just about everywhere at this point in time.
All right. I mean, I'll just throw it out there. I do side lean, I suppose, would be Bradley. I don't know if I'll have anything in that game, but we've only got about 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to move on to what I'll use for the parlay. And I already know your opinion on this team, Rob. I know you're going to agree with it because you've talked about liking this team. I'm going to use Austin Peay. I'm going to lay the points. If you could check the odds screen there, I think is it okay if I say 11 minus 120? Because it has moved since we got on air a little bit. I wanted 11 or better. Is it 11.5 most places now? Because if it is, I'll just say 11 minus 120.
I'm showing 11.5. You know what? There's a couple of, this is a weird game, Adam. There's a couple of 10.5s.
Yeah.
In commonplace books, and then there's a stray 12, but most of it's 11.5 minus 10 cents.
So we'll go 11 minus 120. That's no problem. I always try to give the benefit of the doubt for the parlay because, again, it's going to come out plus money anyway. And as always, shop it around. I got to see Stetson play last week. They played against a very uninterested Florida Gulf Coast team in the game I was at, blew them out. And I was not particularly impressed with them, despite the fact that they blew Florida Gulf Coast out in that game, because I just felt like FGCU. I had seen FGCU's game the Thursday before and felt like they kind of looked uninterested in that game. So what was very surprising to me, Rob, was that Stetson came out on Wednesday and just destroyed Eastern Kentucky, dropped 92 points on Eastern Kentucky. I didn't play it. I didn't have any action in that game, but I got to be honest, that was a surprising result. Probably one of the more surprising results to me of that whole day of games was that Stetson just came out, dropped 90, and absolutely blitzed a team that I thought was a lot better than them. Now, this would be a sin. I thought Eastern Kentucky was better than Stetson. I know that Austin Peay is better than Stetson, and maybe from our discussion the other day, maybe better than all of these teams, Rob. I think they're the team to beat in this league, even with as good as Central Arkansas has been. And what Stetson's going to do is try to play zone. It really is their only answer. Stetson's defense is not very good. And I just you can't just sit in a zone and expect us to stay close with this Austin Peay team. They can shoot. They move the ball. Top 50 3-point shooting team all season. Top 50. They assist. Their assist turnover ratio is 35th. They move the ball. They don't turn it over. They're the exact type of offense that you want against a bad zone, which is essentially what Stetson has. If they get out of that zone, it's not going to get any easier because they're just Austin Peay, in my opinion, is just much, much better, across the board. And so for me, you have a scenario where on Wednesday, Rob, they were able to bomb Eastern Kentucky, who's been a mess pretty much all season, for 92. I just don't know that you do that here. And even if they are scoring, I don't know that they hold Austin Peay under mid 80s. They might hit 90 in this game. So I know you always say the math works out, right?
Yeah.
I don't see how Austin Peay doesn't put up 85 plus in this game, 80 plus, 85 plus. And if they do, it's just really hard to believe Stetson is within 10 with just how many good looks that Austin Peay is likely to generate against this zone. So my number was kind of right on this. I did not play this yet for clients. I don't know if I will, but for our parlay, Austin Peay minus 11, this just feels like a mismatch to me. And I think it's going to be a blowout. What do you have? What would your look be on the total in that game?
Well, I think you hit on it when you said Austin Peay should get to 85. I would look their team total over. I don't believe in Stetson's defense. And I'm going to just go back to where you started that really quick here because we're under the gun time-wise. But I was shocked. I mean, money came in on EKU that day. Money came in pretty strong on EKU. And the first score I saw, Stetson was out of the gates as if Eastern Kentucky didn't know the game started. And they never let up. So, I use that phrase, somebody's got to pay. That's not necessarily the case here, but I think the idea behind this would be Stetson probably had a freakish performance that was more of a mirage than reality. And even if they do score, Austin Peay is going to score more than they are. So I would have an Austin Peay team total look up and over.
All right. Yeah. I mean, Austin Peay, listen, if you're going to lay double digits with a team, usually you probably like their team total over as well. I think I'm good with either of those. I'm going to lay the 11 in the parlay, but I think you could see unlimited scoring from the Governors today, Rob. So I could get down with the team total over as well. What we're going to do with the parlay, 3-teamer, we're locked in. We're going Austin Peay minus 11, minus 120 juice attached to that one. Bayou is going to go Dayton money line, minus 130. And then we've got Rob Vino, Bradley, Valpo, full game, over 133.5. That is your 3-teamer for today. That is your show. Hopefully I'm in heaven here, Rob, with all the lights that basically glowing. Hopefully that wasn't too distracting and we worked around a little technical difficulty. But again, Rob and I will be back tomorrow morning with Kelly in Vegas, 11 a.m. Come for, got to come for Gianni. He's going to rattle off probably like 10 to 15 sharp angles. So you're going to want to be in the building for that. And then Rob and I will come on and talk games for the rest of the hour on Wager Talk Last Call. And per my text here, I believe we're doing it on Sunday this week too. So no days off for this duo. I believe we're doing Last Call on Sunday as well. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We very much appreciate you tuning in, commenting, like, subscribe, checking out the plays that we have posted at Wager Talk. And we will see you guys in the morning.